Welcome to Sense and Sustainability, your podcast channel for sustainable procurement. We hope you like what you hear. Please go to www.iso2400.org for more information, learning resources, tools, and much more.
Welcome to Sense and Sustainability. I'm delighted to introduce Dane McIndoe from New Zealand. This is part one of two podcasts where Dane describes his background in procurement and how he became involved in sustainability.
So, hello everybody. Welcome to Sense and Sustainability, our podcast, international podcast related to anything to do with sustainable procurement. And today I'm delighted to welcome Dane McIndoe from New Zealand. Dane, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And so really the purpose of today is to talk about your career, your perspective, and also what you're doing and what you're trying to do around sustainable procurement. So could you first of all tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to become involved in sustainability?
My career in procurement, I guess, started 20-something years ago. The lead up to that was actually I was a technologist. So, started out as an engineer, worked up to IT manager. And as always with procurement, you tend to fall into it. I don't think anyone really starts out going, I want to be in procurement. It was definitely one of those sort of changes in life going, this is something interesting. So that took off and transformed my career. And I now find myself at One New Zealand, one of the largest telcos in New Zealand, and heading up enterprise procurement for them, getting to deal with all of our enterprise customers, our government customers, solving a lot of their problems. We're doing procurement sourcing for them as a service, and then also now helping out with the sustainability department within One New Zealand, just trying to do better for New Zealand. That's a very short version.
Short summary, absolutely. Yeah, like you, I started off in different careers. I was a mechanical engineer, and then I was a salesperson, and then I fell into procurement as well. Although I am finding, we obviously in my business we hire people with procurement backgrounds. I am finding now that we do have some younger people in our team that have actually chosen procurement as a profession. But most people I meet of the older generation, as you say, have kind of fallen into procurement because it seemed like a good idea at the time, and then stay for 20 odd years.
Yeah, I must admit, there's some days I do question whether it was a good idea at the time.
Yeah.
We are finding it here. So I'm also the chair for the Auckland SIPS committee in New Zealand. There's three committees in New Zealand: Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch, three main centres, and part of our focus actually is really to try and drive more of the younger people coming through into procurement. I think SIPS as an organisation is extremely well engaged with tertiary providers around the globe and have very good programs and pathways into procurement. But within New Zealand, we're probably not alone, but the tertiary side of things tends to be almost too late. A lot of people are heading to universities knowing what they want to be and where they want to go. It's the few that actually pick up on commercial law and other aspects of supply chain, and they go, oh, there's something else there. So we have a clear focus here in Auckland to try and directly engage with secondary schools and try and drive the career path as an option earlier on, so they're thinking about that as they head to university. So a bit of a slight shift in focus. We've got tertiary covered, so let's start the next layer down.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because we'll start to talk about sustainability in a moment, and the whole. I started getting involved in sustainability in the late 90s, I guess. So for quite some time now, and then I got myself qualified as an environmentalist as well as a procurement person. And like you, I think I must have been a member of SIPS for like 30 years now. So it's interesting as we start to build in some of these new concepts into procurement around sustainability. It's absolutely essential, and I understand what you're doing in terms of getting, potentially getting secondary school young people engaged in the profession, and also engaged in sustainability. So, would you like to tell me a little more about, again, I suspect like you, I kind of fell into the sustainability thing when it all seemed like a good idea about 20 years ago, and then it sort of grew and grew from there. So, what does sustainability and sustainable procurement look like for you?
That's a small question with a huge answer. I don't know how long we're on the podcast.
That's okay. Well, we've got as much time as we need.
There's a number of, I think, points along the way where I've sort of looked, and the thought pattern generally goes, there needs to be a better way of doing this, or how else can I help people, whether it be customers or just general public. And there's been a few instances along my career where I've been able to identify different pieces more around the social impact side of corporate responsibility, and it's been quite a focus for me. But as a side effect of looking more at the social impact, then you suddenly start getting into more of the environmental piece and understanding more around, if we divert technology, for example, to secondary or tertiary use, as opposed to disposing and recycling after first use, then we obviously affect the amount of landfill, we affect the amount of recycling, but we also better the lives of other people. So there's been that whole sort of journey working through understanding how my customers and general users, as a telco, general users of our products, consume our products, and trying to understand more around what drives the use, what drives the turnover and the repetition of constantly getting new devices, and then trying to work out how we can provide those devices without affecting our environmental footprint. So it's been a very long journey for me. It's not something I actually stopped and realized, oh, look, there's something about environmental. It's actually been always pulled back to another pillar, I think, within the sustainable approach, and really trying to drive more of a sustainable business as a business outcome, rather than singly focusing on, we need to do some sustainability. There's other corporates out there that are doing that for me and just ticking the box and going, yep, we're sustainable. And I was like, well, how? And I need to understand how. I need to understand what impact it actually has. So it was quite a lengthy journey, really, when you look at it like that.
So it sounds like a lot of the drivers for you are commercial, potentially, and saving costs, but also kind of the right thing to do. Because I hear all around the world when I talk to people about sustainable procurement, we'd love to be more sustainable, but it costs more. And I always say, well, sustainability shouldn't cost you more, but bad procurement will. Do you have some examples of areas when you talk about secondary and tertiary use of devices, for instance, where there's a really strong business case for doing the right thing?
Absolutely. I mean, with corporate use of IT equipment, I often use this as an example because it's an easy one to pick on, and any corporate listening to this, I apologize, don't take offense, but the rate at which we, as any organization, consume laptops and desktops is outrageous. There's new laptops coming out pretty much every week. There's new chipsets coming out around the same time, and it's forever a race to get the next technology. Laptops generally stay on a corporate 3, maybe 4 years at a stretch, and again, there are always exceptions of people hang on to them for 5 and 10 years, but the 3 to 4 year cycle refresh is very, very typical, and it's global, right? So it's not just localized 3 to 4 year recycle. There's nothing wrong with those laptops. The majority of the laptops, there's nothing wrong with them. And it's really easy to put them back into a program somehow and redistribute to needy people, needy organizations, charities, low income schools. There's all of these different areas we can put these devices back. And that's probably the biggest one, really, that I've sort of focused on within New Zealand recently, and have won a couple of awards around it as well, which is particularly pleasing to see that that sort of recognition comes through. That's just one example. Mobile phones is another big driver. When smartphones came in, Samsung and Apple, every day the advertising is get the new phone, and there is there's a certain element of security and the latest updates and making sure that you're safe online, and but all of these manufacturers, to meet global requirements and global standards around software and support and everything else, generally have software available 5 years, generally as a minimum, including security patches. So there's not really that need to cycle through, apart from the users wanting the latest, greatest, shiny, fastest phone, right? So, those are the sort of things that would help a business case stack up quite quickly. And if you then turn that around and take it into almost a subscription base, you're only ever subscribe to that device, then you overall lower your TCO, because you're getting 85% of the cost of the device over 3 to 4 years. It's cycling out. The cost of replenishment, the cost of replacement, everything else is generally factored into those subscriptions, and then the devices go off to second use. So it just starts building this whole cycle. That's probably the one that springs to mind for me.
Yeah, thank you. I was talking to a company in the UK actually as part of this podcast series, and we will be recording a podcast with them. And it's a company that refurbishes laptops. And it's exactly what you say. They take laptops from the big corporates that want the shiniest, newest, fastest laptops every 2 to 3 years. And their view is exactly the same. There's nothing wrong with these laptops. They can maybe put a bit of extra RAM in if they need it, but they actually completely refurbish them and take them back into new condition, including painting them with some special coating. And they can do really cool things, like they can etch your logo onto the laptop and actually provide you with something that is effectively a new laptop, but it's not, and that can be at a fraction of the cost of buying the newest laptop. So what they've done is made a business out of it. So rather than kind of donating or whatever, actually putting some effort into making these laptops perform, because in their view, most people do most of what they do now in the cloud. And older laptops are perfectly capable of performing most of the functions that you need. So it's a really interesting concept that seems to be all around. I mean, we're talking to each other from literally opposite ends of the world, and basically looking at the same thing, which is fascinating.
Yeah. The other within New Zealand, we've definitely got people that play in that field and do all of those services for us. When we do these things, it's very much my partner ecosystem that is looking after that side of things for me, but it's getting it there. It's getting the products built for the company to actually go, this is the cycle, this is the life cycle, and this will be flowing through. But it is still a compounding issue, right? So we've not completely tackled it. There are other parts that need to be looked at as well. And that's really where I think procurement can make a significant difference, when we start looking at how we're sourcing these items to start with, and looking at what is the end of life before we even contract it. Not just before we buy it, before we contract it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it comes to this question then of the role of procurement in all of this. And certainly myself and a lot of the customers that I speak to of our services see procurement as essential. I mean, we're the gatekeeper of a lot of this. And if you look at organizations around the world, I mean, most organizations in the world deliver a high percentage of what they do through their supply chains. And I'm seeing a growing realization that if we're really going to be sustainable, and if we're really going to deal with our scope 3 carbon, and if we're really going to look at ethical issues in our business, then we have to look at our supply chains as well as our operational business. And it seems to me like customers are starting to ask some serious questions about this. I mean, I was talking to some guys the other day, oddly enough, from a telco in India, and they're very vexed about sustainable procurement and want to do it better. I think they're kind of earlier in their journey. But they're earlier in their journey, but their customers are starting to ask for it, and they supply to people like Amazon and Microsoft and these guys, and it seems to them that suddenly customers are asking questions and expecting proper answers. And it was, in the early days of sustainability in my career, it would be, a customer would ask a token token question about sustainability and put a token amount of weighting into the bid evaluation, whilst making sure that it's never ever going to really make a difference to a procurement decision. And then the supplier at the other end copies and pastes the thing that they wrote in their last bid about sustainability. The buyer ticks the box and away we go, and nothing ever changes. It seems now, I'm thinking in most sectors, in most parts of the world, customers are kind of getting a lot more serious. Are you seeing that from your, particularly from your corporate customers?
Yes, is the short answer, but I'll expand on it. New Zealand is a little bit different in a number of ways. New Zealand is known for being a beautiful country. It's green. It's it's fantastic. The people in New Zealand are highly passionate. So we've been passionate about the environment since I was a teenager. I mean, even before that, but that when I was a teenager is when I first noticed it, right? And standing up against the US with no nuclear warships coming into the country. I remember that. It's one of the childhood memories that gets sunk in, and we it's year on year, it's gotten more and more. It's just part of who we are. We all care about the country and want to we're connected to the country. It's just the way we are. So everything, I've seen it in business for many, many years, but it's coming through very, very strongly now in business, as I think a lot of people that started, noticing things around the same time I did, they're coming up into more senior parts of the business saying we need to do more. We're also getting the younger people coming through going, what are you doing? Having young people come into an interview and go, what is your company's stance on corporate responsibility and environment? You would never have asked that in a company 20, 30 years ago, because, well, you didn't ask questions in the interview, right? That was your time to answer questions. So, and younger people are now deciding on whether they want to work for a company based on what we do. So we have to have very good answers, and it has to be backed up.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting about people and young people, and certainly I'm seeing that too. And I talk about the dash for talent. We all want talented young people in our businesses, and to facilitate that, having a good stance on sustainability is really important. And certainly, I find as the owner of I suppose a medium-sized business now, we employ about 60 people. Yes, young people want to come and work with us, and not necessarily just the sustainability professionals or the procurement professionals. We have marketing people, we have IT people, we have people that in our business that want to work with us because they want to be as close as they can to the sustainability agenda. So yeah, I think it's a really good call. It's not just about the customers, it's about people.
Thank you for listening to our podcast on Sense and Sustainability. Please listen out for more episodes. For more information, learning resources, tools, and much more content on sustainable procurement, go to www.iso2400.org.